Will author Arundhati Roy be arrested for a speech she made on Kashmir in 2010? I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. The decision by the Delhi Lieutenant Governor to allow the prosecution of acclaimed author Arundhati Roy has made global headlines, and some would argue for all the wrong reasons. In 2010, Arundhati Roy made a speech on Kashmir that the BJP says was secessionist and separatist in nature. But why is the prosecution or the intent and talk of prosecution taking place in 2024? The decision by the Delhi Lieutenant Governor to allow this prosecution is triggering a global debate. What is the signal and the message that the government is trying to send? Is the Delhi Lieutenant Governor acting on his own, or is this the central government sending a larger message? Will the government actually move forward with the case and arrest Arundhati Roy, or is this saber rattling? To try and understand both the law and the politics around this, let's introduce our guests on the program today. If we can bring them up, please. Joining us is Arnab Ray, well-known author. We're also joined by Vinit, Goenka, political analyst and BJP supporter. We're also joined by Sanjay Hegde, who's of course a senior advocate. And we're also joined by Tehseen, Poonawalla, Congress supporter and political analyst. Welcome, everybody. And let me actually try and understand what's going on here. Why are we seeing a 2010 case alive or resurrected in 2024? Vinit ji, how do you explain what's happening?
Barkha, Ram Ram to you, Ram Ram to all my co-panelists and everybody is watching us. And Tehseen bhai, Eid, good wishes to you. I think this is an appropriate time. I myself have one question. Why did the LG take so much of time? Should have been arrested. She should have been punished by now. And she should have been made an example by now. What she did is something which is, I call them as to be enemies within. It's an extreme case where you leave, stay, but yet you try to break that country. And she has been doing this. And rightfully said by the former CDS, General Rawat, he said we are fighting 2.5 front war. This is that half front where your internal enemies, your enemies within, try to create this kind of ruckus. So I think it is delayed. LG should have given this permission years back. She should have been prosecuted. By now, she should have served her term.
By now, she should have served her term. But given that it didn't happen all these years, why is it happening now, Vinitji? According to you, she should have been jailed for those comments.
That's the question which is hovering in my mind, that why was she given this liberty all these years? Had a simple citizen done some small things like pickpocketing or maybe something like that, he would have been punished by now. Now, where somebody has done such a heinous crime of trying to speak against the motherland, trying to be in cohesion with the deep green and the deep reds, and we know that she has been funded. Somebody who has been funded, somebody who has all these kind of elements, should have been arrested, prosecuted, and by now she should have finished her terms also. So this delay is questionable. And I am also asking, the only thing is you're asking from other angle and I'm asking it from a different angle. My angle is right and your angle is also...
My angle, you don't know what my angle is. My question simply is, one, should anyone be put in jail for a speech? I think the Supreme Court laws on sedition or the Supreme Court interpretation of sedition is quite clear. It has to be an incitement to violence for it to count as sedition. And two, has everybody been asleep all these years, including those who think that this is a jailable offense? Sanjay Hegde, I will bring you in on the law, but Tehseen, Poonawalla, let me bring you in. And yes, Eid Mubarak to you and everybody else. Tehseen, what do you make of what's happening?
Thank you, Barkha, for having me on the show. There is the law that acts because it should act in defense of the country or to uphold the majesty of the law. And then there are bureaucrats and LGs who act or force the law to act to uphold what they believe is their political agenda. And that, I think, does not uphold the majesty of the law. Now, I'm not a fan of Arundhati Roy. In fact, I think she's stupid. And I'm saying this word with absolute no hesitation. I think she's ridiculous. But stupidity doesn't deserve a sedition. Vinit said, look, if there was any other person, he would have been prosecuted. She's been funded from abroad, deep green, deep red, but that's not what she's being funded, she's being prosecuted for. She's being prosecuted for something absolutely stupid that she said. And I don't know if stupidity deserves a jail term, but let me go back to the case in the US. Texas versus Johnson, 1984. This happened. Johnson burned the American flag outside the Republican convention. And a 5-4 landmark judgment, the American court held, and the ninth judge was a conservative judge, held that it is important and fundamental that the flag protects even those who hold it in contempt. Of course, George Bush disagreed against it, and I think a lot of people do, and that's free speech. But every time someone says something that does not lead to immediate violence, then how can you arrest them 2010, 2024, 14 years later? How is this justified? If she's got illegal money, illegal funding, by all means, prosecute her. That's not what she's been prosecuted for. Something she said in 2010 led to nothing. In 2024, you've woken up to prosecute her. Now, why is this happening? If we go deep into it before I end, is because the BJP wants to set a political agenda. And that's why I said what must be upheld at all course is the majesty of the law. And the majesty of the law comes from the basic structure of the Constitution, which upholds the right to life, liberty, and free speech. If we're going to take away the basic structure of the Constitution, which the Vice President of India has and Chairperson of Rajya Sabha has spoken about recently, which the ex-Chief Justice, who is now in Rajya Sabha, courtesy the BJP, has spoken about, that the basic structure is debatable, then I think we're in a lot of trouble. Because it is only this basic structure that protects all of us as citizens, that makes Vinit and me equal. But there's a larger problem in this as I end. The minute you take away free speech, at a time when you find free speech inconvenient, you say, okay, it's not acceptable. Free speech ceases to accept. Free speech is very good. Barkha, you and I, Vinit and I will have a great conversation, and free speech is flourishing. That's not free speech. When you and I fight, Barkha, and you uphold my dignity to disagree with you, and I uphold your right to disagree with me, that is the true test of both a democracy and of the law and our Constitution.
So basically, you're saying you don't agree with anything Arundhati Roy said, but you don't think she should be jailed for it either in 2010 or 2024.
No, I don't agree. I think, and I'm using the word stupid again. I think she's stupid. I think she's ridiculous. I think she's attention seeking. Perhaps even she needs psychological help. I'm not a judge of that. But none of that demand that she be jailed. None of that demand she be jailed. That's not fair.
Yeah.
She didn't lead to violence immediately. Had it led to violence, as in the case of Sharjeel Imran, where I make an exception, where he came down and he said India should be cut off, Assam should be cut off, the chicken neck, and all of these states should be made separate, so people there suffer. That deserves prosecution, not this. I'm very clear on that.
Sanjay Hegde, speaking from the perspective of the law, the Supreme Court also has a 2013 verdict where it actually says, looking at the UAPA, the anti-terror law in which this prosecution has been granted, that the prosecution basis should be explained. We do not have an explanation from the Lieutenant Governor as to why he has sanctioned this, right? Secondly, the Supreme Court has also been quite clear that something is seditious if it incites violence. Without the incitement to violence, the mere expression of an opinion is not seditious. What do you believe is going on here? Do you believe this is weak in law? It might be weak or strong in politics. That depends on your opinion. But is it weak in law?
It's absolutely weak in law. Now, firstly, let me explain to you that this is not a case of sedition. Sanction for sedition was sought, and I believe that the Lieutenant Governor had turned it down, saying that the sedition law itself has been kept in cold storage by the Supreme Court. Now, there are certain disruptive activities which come within the fold of the UAPA, which are being sought to be applied. However, the UAPA also has rules. The rules say that an authority must first recommend that this is a case where the government must grant sanction. After that, the government must consider the authority's recommendation, and it is not bound by the recommendation. It must grant sanction. It may grant sanction. It may not grant sanction. Without sanction, a case can't proceed further. So the first thing we have to understand is that we are at a threshold where the government has applied its mind and says this needs to go to for prosecution. However, I believe that this very decision to grant permission is vulnerable and should be struck down by a court. Firstly, on the mere question of delay, it doesn't take 14 years to decide whether a speech openly made in a public environment, I think it was some little theater auditorium in Delhi, and it was covered in the press at that point of time. So in 2010, you take a decision. This comes in within the UAPA, and I'm going to prosecute. You can't keep something indefinitely in cold storage and after 14 years say that now I'm going to take it out. Forget the ordinary law of limitation, which would have applied to ordinary crimes under the IPC. Now I'm going to bring out the sword of the UAPA. There is a judgment of the Kerala High Court in circumstances which were much less. It was a CPML member called Rupesh or someone like that. And there was barely a delay of 6 months. But the Kerala High Court said no. If you have made rules, those rules are mandatory. If you haven't followed them, then you can't grant sanction at all. I believe that if Ms. Roy or the Kashmiri Professor Showkat, if either of them were to challenge this on delay, the sanction itself would go, and with it, the entire prosecution.
So the question then is, what is being hoped to be achieved here, Arnab? You're an author yourself, and you may not be on the same side of the political fence as Arundhati Roy, but as we have one of our audience members saying, this is a classic case of missing the forest from the trees. It actually trivializes anti-terror laws and elevates Miss Roy. Arundhati Roy hasn't been in the headlines for a very long time. Now she's in the global headlines. What has been achieved here, according to you?
So, first of all, thank you for having me on the show, Barkha. The last time I was here, we were discussing something very similar about Natasha Call. And Natasha Call's, and my point then was that by doing what the government did, they made her brand. In this case, they're reviving Miss Arundhati Roy's brand. Like, she's the OG of all agent provocators, I would say. This is her brand. And I would disagree with Tehseen when he says that she's an, I think you used the word idiot or something of that sort. She's absolutely not. I mean, first of all, she's a great novelist. Let's all agree on that. Or maybe we don't agree on that. But she's definitely very intelligent. This is her brand. And what the government is doing is, in my opinion, she's actually become irrelevant. She was relevant in the 2010s. And by doing this, they're basically, and this is what I tweeted, it's like trying to revive the career of Fardeen Khan in this day and age with a reboot of Prem Magan. I mean, which I think is a good idea, but not this. Especially because I think and this is with NDA 3, we have to show as a country, and maybe this was an issue in this election, is that we should not be concerned as a mature democracy with what some people who are in any case going to say this to that audience, that we should be concerned as a nation by what they said. And by reacting like this, and that to 14 years after she said this, because there is no reason, right? There has been no act of violence that has followed from that, and we have had 14 years to see that. So if at all anything, the situation has become better. Why would you put that back on the front page internationally when she has no influence, in my opinion, anyways, outside some very rarefied academic, let's say, places which would listen to, let's say, a Naomi Klein, that kind of, she's not mainstream at all.
So why do you think they've done it? Before I take this back to Vinit and Tehseen, why do you think they've done it?
If I could guess, they actually wanted to put her on the front page news. There were other things that they would rather not have on the front page news at this point of time. This was like, boom, what can we do? There's something lying there from 14 years. Let's do it right now.
So So it's a good change of headlines, is what you're actually saying. We don't know, Vinitji. Is that what you say? Is that what you would agree with? And let me add a point of my own. My election travels started in Kanyakumari and ended in Kashmir, and this is the point when the government should have been doubling down on the extraordinary headlines from Kashmir in terms of its turnout, right? Historic turnout. Instead, you've gone back to some old chapter of Kashmir. उसकी तो हम कितना आगे निकल गए हैं on the Kashmir discourse also.
And as I said in my first this thing also, that it is delayed. Only thing is, it is delayed because as per me, she should have been convicted and served her terms. Now see, Barkha, let me make a point. Separatist, or whether it is sectionist, whether there are enemies within, whether there are these Naxalites, or there are characters like Sarjit Imam, what Tehseen Bhai said. This all are the output or a product of these seeds which have been sowed by these kind of farmers called as, Susan Arundhati Roy. Now, Susan Arundhati Roy knows what she does. She does it deliberately with full knowledge, and she knows that the repercussions don't come in 1 to 2 days. She's trying to set an agenda which will create a new world order. When I say new world order, it means orders for weapons from both the side, whether it is from the security
But
forces
is
or from
she's so powerful? One person can set a new world order. One person can set a new world order. Then she should have been able to
good, good.
define she should have been able to ensure a loss for Prime Minister Modi to start with. Forget a new world order.
No, no. So who said that she is only one? This is your assumption. When there is an investigation, you identify, then you'll know what are her links. So let the investigating agencies have their own work done. They will identify whether she is a lone wolf or she is a part of the larger deep green and deep red cartel around you, which wants to break the country.
Viniji, do you think that she should be sent to jail for her opinion on Kashmir expressed in 2010? And what might you think will that make India look like in the eyes of the world?
So let me answer your second question first, and then I'll answer the first one. It will send a serious message to the world that we don't take separatists and enemies within lightly. We will take the same actions what you expect US to take against people like them or USSR to take against them. There are provisions in this law, and world will look at us in a higher spirit.
Okay.
We don't take it lightly. One. And let me answer your first question. I wish there were a stringent law and which could have been taken up somewhat with the courts. When the courts can open at 3 o'clock for terrorists, why can't the courts call the government and say, okay, why did you delay this? They should punish people who have delayed this. They should take this on the fast track. Question the authorities. Why did they take 11 years?
Okay, let me get reactions. I think you're today the only person on this panel who thinks that she should be arrested for her comments. Whether Tehseen and Arnab don't agree with her comments. But they don't think she should be jailed for them. Tehseen, the point is this has become a proxy political argument between supporters of the BJP and supporters of the opposition. What are the politics of this? What line do you think the opposition would and should take on this?
Not play on this pitch, because this pitch is a victory for Prime Minister Modi. He will win on this pitch. So don't play on this pitch.
Explain that.
I'll explain. Let good lawyers like Sanjay Bhai here defend her in court, and let the courts do their job. No, don't make political speeches. Don't get into the politics of it. Parliament is starting on 24. There's a lot to hold this government on ground for. Arundhati Roy is not going to be the center of it. Why has it happened just before Parliament? It's happened just before Parliament because the government is scared that now with the opposition and its increased strength, 232 versus 290 odd, there will be, at least in the Lok Sabha, there will be opposition. They'll be heard. They'll be forced to hear the opposition. What is the best way to stop an opposition? By diverting the issue. And the BJP, particularly the Prime Minister, is a master at diversions. So, and every time the opposition takes bait, falls for that bait, and argues on issues that don't really matter. You ask a common man on the road right now, and I know that free speech must be protected, but you ask a common man on the road, who is Arundhati Roy, as much as Arnab thinks she's a great novelist, which I don't, the common man on the road doesn't know. He might perhaps know who Fardeen Khan is, and between Arundhati and Fardeen, I prefer Fardeen. But jokes apart, it's not your core issue right now. So the opposition shouldn't fall into the trap of the BJP. Let the BJP do what it has to do. Let's have good lawyers like Sanjay, good authors like Arnab come there and defend it or do what they have to do. Let the law take its course. Don't fall for this political battle. I'm very clear about it. The minute you fall, there's going to be only one winner, and that's going to be the BJP. But on the larger end, I think what the opposition can do.
But when you say that, 1 minute, there's a contradiction in your response. When you say that if the opposition plays on this pitch, the BJP is the winner, that means that you think the BJP has not been quite so silly as its critics are saying in raising this issue. You think that there is smart politics
in it. It's done deliberately. Please, Barkha,
what's the idea?
You are more experienced than all of us put together here. Of course it's done. 2010.
What's the aim? Arnab says the aim is diversion. What do you think the aim is?
Diversion. The opposition with 230 is going to come with bigger strength in Lok Sabha. They are not going to have answers. Chandrababu Naidu is tickling them. I don't think he'll take the speaker for the speaker post. There is going to be some amount of pressuring on the Prime Minister. They don't want that. They want to run so what is the best way? The best way to avoid any serious discussion is divert to issues that don't matter. Somebody said something in 2010. Vinit says that, listen, this is a very serious issue. She could have broken up the country, created a new world order. But the country didn't break. a new world order was not created. Then he says in 2024, we should investigate if she could do it. If my chachi had an Adam's apple, she would be my chacha. It doesn't work like that. She doesn't have an Adam's apple. She's not my. So you can't come down in 2024 and say, if she in 2010 could have created a new world order. No, it doesn't work like that. So there is no new world order created. Kashmir continues to remain an integral part of India. In fact, more so after the abrogation of Article 370 on August 5, 2019, I think there will be people who say stupid things, just like Fardeen Khan did stupid movies. You let go of them.
Okay, I don't know where we've gone with our metaphors today with Chacha, Chachis, Adam's apple, and Fardeen Khan. So it's good to be able to enjoy a joke or two also. Once again, Vinitji, let me get Sanjay and Arnab, and then I'll come back to you. Sanjay, what happens now? What happens now? Like, explain to us the modality. Now the governor has allowed sanction for prosecution. Abhi kya hoga? Ya ho sakta hai?
See, what will possibly happen is that this very sanction will be challenged in a court of law and interim protection sought. There is another issue also. I believe that even a charge sheet has not been filed. So without a charge sheet, what exactly did the governor, Lieutenant Governor sanction? That also is a question. You have an incomplete investigation and you've already given sanction for a prosecution. The other thing I would like to disagree with Tehseen is that she's not stupid. B, what she said, I was just reading the speech. Much more has been said in the Supreme Court in the course of arguments in 370 itself. So the situation in 2010 was a different thing. The situation today may be a totally different thing. When you are making a decision in 2024 to prosecute, you cannot impute all that you know in 2024 to the situation in 2010. So there is more than one reason for this to be struck down. And yes, and the politics part of it, Tehseen may be entirely right that the opposition parties need not get into this. Ms. Roy is quite capable of being a one-woman opposition to not only the government here, but she's been in opposition to most of the governments all over the world. The difference is that most governments all over the world do not come into jailer. Some of them actually provide her a platform, listen to her and say, thank you very much. We've heard you.
Yeah.
The real test of a democracy is how you treat those who are not in the common medium. How you treat your writers, even your eccentrics. How big is the imagination that you allow your citizens?
But
we cannot simply say, shut up. If you say this, we will lock you. That is not a democracy.
But I want to pick up on one excellent point that you've made, Tehseen, briefly, and then Arnab. That so much has changed. The 370, Kashmir has changed. And we are not just reviving or not reviving Arundhati's relevance, as Arnab says. You are reviving an old discourse around Kashmir. This discourse is not applicable in today's context. It's been tried, tested, discussed, in the Supreme Court.
That's true. But the idea is also remember the last couple of weeks, there have been terrible firings at Jammu. And most people who are BJP supporters says, Naya Kashmir chodo, Purana Jammu de do, where kids have been massacred. So I think this is also to avoid from that. But I just disagree with Sanjay on one thing. You see, something said in Supreme Court. First of all, I did follow the 370 arguments in Supreme Court. Nobody said Kashmir is not a part of India. They spoke about the autonomy of Kashmir within the Constitution of India, which can be legitimately argued for, which I think is fine. The other autonomous part. Her, she's very specific. Kashmir is not a part of India. And to me, as much as I support free speech, it's unacceptable you say that. Every part is a part of India. You can't say that. Then I think when you say that, you're seeking attention or you're stupid. How do you say something's not a part of India? We are your passport. If you're a passport holder, an Indian passport holder, you accept that Kashmir is a part of India. So I don't think that is an acceptable thing to say. Does she need to go to a jail? No. But it's not acceptable. And I don't think that was said in Supreme Court that Kashmir is not a part of India.
So the question then to Arnab is, if something is not acceptable, Sorry, Sanjay, were you wanting a line? Sanjay Hegde?
I was saying, of course, it was said that Kashmir was not integrated into India except through 370, and that breaking the 370 buckle effectively detached Kashmir. That was also an argument which was made. But Arundhati's, please also read what Arundhati said and in what context. She said that earlier she was asked in Jharkhand aggressively by a reporter, is it an integral part of India? Is it an integral part of India? And there she says that my response is this. So
Yeah.
it's an entirely nuanced thing that she said, and we should not go simply by headlines and hashtags.
But the question, Arnab, is if everybody thinks that we don't agree with Arundhati, does the state have any business responding? Again, it comes back to incitement of violence. I think the Supreme Court has put that framework quite well on sedition. That, speech by itself is not secession, is not sedition. Speech which incites violence is seditious. Would you have in 2010 and 2024 just either ignored Arundhati Roy or contested her with a better, what you would say is a better set of ideas? What should the state's response be?
So first of all, let me just, I'll answer your question, but before I get to that, there was a question of political strategy here. So the only political strategy that I can think of other than deflecting headlines is it's a trap for the opposition. So if you stand up and say, I support you can then legitimately attack the opposition by saying they're supporting what Arundhati Roy said. And that distinction is difficult to make. It's a subtle point that I don't agree with Arundhati Roy, but I stand by her right to say it. That can be diffused in political rhetoric that, look, the Congress has gotten back to saying exactly what we say they say, this. So I think it's a trap. And that's the only thing that I can think of charitably if this was a master plan. I don't think it is. But the Congress would do well not to step into this trap, or any of the opposition. But coming to that, I would again reiterate the point that if Mr. Modi wants us to be a Vishwa Guru, which is to lead the world, as to then it is very important for us to behave like adults. And one of the things that an adult does is to understand the level of a threat perception and to understand what is a threat and what is a tantrum. So this is nothing but a tantrum, and this behooves the Indian state to just ignore it. And besides the fact that they're making Arundhati Roy's career again, leaving that to the side, if we really want us to think of ourselves as world leaders, these are things which we should absolutely ignore.
I think that's actually well said. And I'm going to take last comments. Vinit, Goenka, if you want to be a Vishwa Guru, you have to allow your outliers. I think Sanjay Hegde used the word eccentrics. Individuals who are on the margins, who do not reflect the dominant opinion of a country, to be there, express their opinion. You cannot jail people. You cannot be a world leader and jail people for having an unpalatable opinion. That is the argument being made. Yeah, go ahead, Vinit.
Yeah, I heard their uninterrupted 3-4 rounds of talking from them and got some learning. At least now I will go a little more intelligent. But one request to Tehseen, don't trivialize this matter as to be BJP versus opposition. Don't bring politics in everything. Well, there has to be an investigation why this delay happened for 11 years. This should have been done then and there itself. You cut the cancer there and there itself. Okay. When I said world order, Tehseen bhai, it is about orders of the weapons and the equipments which we as a state had to do, and the terrorists did it to harm us. So please understand that it's not a very simple thing. You also made a point of uncle and the apple. Maybe your learning tells you that Adam is the only guy who can eat the apple, but I have one more learning. I read Bhagavad Gita where Krishna took care of his uncle Kans when he saw that he was not doing just things. So I have been brought up like that. And see, if I would have been the prosecuting agency, I would have also put homicide against this lady, because when she pushes innocent Kashmiri, innocent Muslims to take arms in the hand, she is responsible for this particular activity. So for me, decent is okay, but when you deliberately incite people under the name of separatists, then they should be dealt with iron hand. And then lastly, one thing I'll tell you, Arnabji talked about her career. This is exactly Arnabji unknowingly said, this is her career. This is where she was paid, and she did this with intention of career. So we cannot ignore that. There I durust hai, Sarkar or agencies should take action, and also we should penalize those people who delayed this action taking. So we should rather ask one question: why didn't you take action 11 years back?
Okay. Sanjay, if there isn't an interim restraint, is there a kind of immediate arrest that follows from sanction for prosecution, or is there a lot that has to happen before?
No, it would be up to the investigating agency, right? So if you want headlines or you want more of these headlines, if there is no order from a court, then the investigating agency, which has not filed a charge sheet yet, might say that we want custodial interrogation.
But but what do you think is more likely to happen?
Well, I think they have got their headlines, they've got their distraction. Beyond this, it would be globally counterproductive. We can't be the Vishwaguru of petulant nationalism. So I think that if there is an arrest, it would have to be cleared at the highest levels.
Yeah. Do you think, Arnab, talking about political strategy, it's one thing to trap the Congress for a couple of days. It's another thing to be, as Sanjay Hegde and you have also implied, be the Vishwaguru of petulant nationalism. I mean, even strategy taken that far becomes a self-goal, possibly.
You're right, but I think at this point of time, it's all about headline management and the immediate gains. So I don't think people are thinking long term. If at all this is part of political strategy, which I also doubt. I think there's no method behind this madness. I think it's just to control the headlines for a few days. I don't think they're thinking about world image and the right thing to do. I don't think they're thinking on those lines.
Tehseen, last word. Sorry, Vinit ji, you had one line, and then Tehseen, yeah.
Let Tehseen bhai say, then I'll speak. Tehseen bhai,
No, आप बोलो, because I'm taking concluding remarks. So आप बोलिए फिर, then I'll give Tehseen the last word. बोलिए आप.
So, I like the way everybody likes to trivialize it, headline management, as if they know all the politics and the things going on in the mind of the Prime Minister. Sir, for the God's sake, understand that there are more issues to be dealt with. As I said, she is somebody who should be handled by an IO level officer, investigating level officer, not even a commissioner of police. So please, sir, don't trivialize the entire matter. It's about my motherland. You may like my motherland, may not like, that is your issue, but you cannot speak against my motherland, sir. We take great objection to this. You try whatever narrative you said.
No one is speaking against our
Don't
country, but there are
headline management as if she is going to be. I laugh on these particular trivialized efforts.
Vinit ji, in politics, there are many other things happening. Kashmir is not the terror attacks in Jammu are a live issue, but the discourse of Miss Roy is not
And
a
they are
live
being
or current
instigated
issue.
because an innocent Muslim is instigated because of her statement. Had she not spoken, innocent Muslim would have been working somewhere. Been sitting sitting in an air-conditioned room. She could have been sitting in such studios.
Tehseen,
The poor guy is instigated by these words.
Okay, Tehseen, last word.
I want to agree with everything my friend Vinit said, everything, except that the most powerful man in the universe and his deputy, the second most powerful man in the universe, the Honorable Prime Minister and Home Minister, are compromising with the Tripura Liberation Front, which even today, right now, if you go onto the website, wants Tripura to be separate from India. As of now, they have a Naga code, which 2017 they were supposed to show you, Barkha. They haven't got it, which the Naga rebels say, ask for a separate parliament, ask for a separate flag. The Prime Minister, the governor of Tamil Nadu, has signed it. They are in alliance, or they were in alliance with Akali Dal, which burnt the Indian constitution. Their members burned the Indian constitution a couple of years ago in Jantar Mantar under protest. So the BJP has no morality to preach. But look, like I said, of course, this is about headline management. This is about diverting issues from Jammu. The minute you come up with Manipur, you go on to Rajasthan. This is classic BJP tactic. Don't fall for it. One last thing, I'm glad Vinit bhai learned a lot. Just one minor thing I would like to teach you. If Kans had a larginal prominence of the thyroid cartilage, he too would be Krishna's auntie. So it's not about Adam eating an apple. It's about a scientific term that is called Adam's apple. Just to tell you, if Kans didn't have that, he too would be Krishna's aunt. So just to put that in perspective, got nothing to do with Adam and Christianity.
Okay, Sanjay, I think Sanjay wants a sentence there. One second, Sanjay wants a sentence. Sanjay, Sanjay?
No. I was inspired by Vinit Goenka to just imagine Pakistani terrorists reading Arundhati Roy. That would be cruel and hard punishment, unusual punishment.
Arnab, did you want to add to that?
Just wanted to say that is exactly what I also wanted to say, that if Arundhati, if Pakistanis are reading Arundhati Roy, this would be a huge increase in market for Arundhati Roy. It's again all good for her. I really doubt, having read Arundhati Roy, that anybody who's going to pick up a gun will even make it past the first sentence of any of her writings.
Okay. It shall be interesting to see what happens next. Let's leave it there. Vinit Goenka, Arnab Ray, Sanjay, Hegde, and Tehseen, Poonawalla. At least we've had a good laugh. There should be some irony and wit in the most serious of discussions and disagreements. That's what democracy is also all about. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and to our audience. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and see you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.